Okay. My name is Newton Dal Pagetto. I was born in Sonoma, California on July 13th, 1922 on Broadway.
And where did you live on Broadway?
I lived on the east side of Broadway, and at that time, what is directly across the street from the Chamber of Commerce, the Dr. McGrath built the house in 1927. I watched them build it from across the street.
Now, what was the cross street at that time? Was it still
France
Street?
Yeah.
And the street on the other side wasn't Andrew Street yet.
No.
What do you remember?
On
the name?
the other side, the cross street on the east was France Street. On the west, up a bit, is Maple, which it still is, where Dr. McGrath built his house. And he bought the lot from Henry Bates.
Oh.
That was Bates's duck pond lot.
Oh.
And the 3-story building that's in the back now was where the duck pond, shallow duck pond was.
Now, Zolita told me that her grandfather built one house on the corner, and then the next one in was for her family.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that was on the south side.
Right.
Yeah, still there.
So when you went
Bed
to
and breakfast now.
Right. When you went to school, you started school when you were how old?
6.
And how did you? And you went to Sonoma Grammar School on
Correct.
East Napa Street.
Yes.
And how did you get to school every day?
I walked.
Even in the winter?
Yes.
Oh.
I never got a ride. We walked rain or shine. And my sister, who was a year younger, and who insisted on going to the new kindergarten at the time, we walked together up the street. And Alan McGrath from across the street would walk with us. He was in my sister's class. And so we would usually walk up to the corner of Patton Street, which wasn't Patton at the time, I don't know what it was called, and then in one block, and then up, we would go past the Women's Club and up to Napa Street, or we would go across Nathanson Creek and go to 2nd Street East and up that way. But more frequently, we would go up 1st Street West because there was a shortcut empty lot below Zolita Bates's house in the Women's Club that we could walk catty corner.
And when you say Zolita Bates's house, that's the house that she bought later in her life and restored.
That's right, the adobe.
The adobe,
across
yes.
from the Women's Club.
Yes.
The Women's Club building was there.
And when you got to school, did school started about what time in the morning?
9 o'clock. I would get there at 8 so I could play ball.
And you played out behind the...
Out behind the current community building. And we had a good big baseball diamond, and where the Episcopal Church is was our soccer and football field, if you want to call it that. And that was the outfield, of course, of the baseball diamond.
And then when school started, was there a bell or?
Yes, there was a bell that was in the 8th grade, and Jesse Prestwood always had a student ring the bell, who was usually the president of the 8th grade class. And he would sit up in the front left-hand side and get to ring the bell. And I'm pleased to tell you that I got that position.
You know, that bell is still around. Ron Keyser has it out at his farm on Watmaw Road.
How nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to press a button. It was electric. And I used to really enjoy watching all the kids come in you got a small sense of power with the bell.
That's great. And then did you all have to line up or what?
Yes.
Out.
In the back of the building, between the two wings, I guess you'd call them, there was a sidewalk, concrete, and outside of the boys' indoor rec room or playroom, we'd all line up, and it would be all 8 classes would line up.
And then your teachers would come down there, or you?
Yeah, the teacher would come down and check to see that everybody was there, and then you'd ring the bell again when Jesse Prestwood would signal you, and you'd ring the bell, and they would start walking up the stairs.
And I'm sure they would walk up the stairs in an orderly, quiet line, right?
Yeah. And if they didn't, Jolly would take out his strap or shake them. And
Now, when you say Jolly, who was?
Jesse Prestwood.
Oh,
we call him Jolly.
Oh, and why did you call him Jolly?
Well, it was a sort of it was a name that predated me, and my guess is that it was a sort of a takeoff on his first name of Jesse, because we didn't think he was jolly, except that when he laughed, he had a distinctive laugh that you could call jolly. So I don't know quite where the name came from, but that's what he was called when I got there.
And so then the first thing
behind his back,
right. So when you went into class, what was the first thing that happened after you took your seats?
In the morning, we would salute the flag. And there was no under God in the Pledge to Allegiance at that time. That was added later.
I remember that. I remember when that was added. I was in school, I think, when that was added.
Time,
yeah.
Yes.
So every day, did you have the same lessons?
No. Well, we did we had the same subjects.
Yes.
I guess you would call it. And we do it there weren't periods like high school, but in a sense they were divided. Like you do arithmetic for 1 hour, you do history for another hour, you do spelling, you do handwriting, at which I was terrible. Robert Winstead and I had the 2 best grades in the class and the 2 worst handwriting. And still did. We were terrible.
So then you would have recess in the morning, break?
We would have a morning recess.
And about how long was that? Long enough to start a game of baseball? Or?
Yeah, about it was either 20 or 30 minutes. But it was long enough, to start a little game of baseball, which I played all the time. And that's why I had to go to school at 8 o'clock to practice.
Right.
Or basketball in basketball season.
So when in the afternoons, at lunchtime, did everyone bring their lunches?
Yes. Oh, yes. We had no cafeteria. We all brought our bag lunches, or little lunch boxes, or didn't eat.
And so would you eat outside?
Yes, unless it was raining and inclement, and then the boys would eat in the boys' basement, and the girls would eat in the girls' basement.
And then in the afternoon, you would have school got out about what time?
The first grade through 4th, I think, or through 3rd, I got out at 2 o'clock. We just had an hour, from 1 to 2. Lunch was an hour, 12 to 1. And we did one class first, second, and third grade, I think. And then fourth grade, there was another hour. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Through eighth.
And do you remember some of your teachers?
Sure. You want me to give them to you?
Yes.
First grade, Alice Young. Second grade, Zelita Bates. Third grade, Florence Murphy. Fourth grade, Alice Noble. Fifth grade, Edna Cooper. Sixth grade, Miss Burchard, and I never did know her first name. And she married a fellow named Warren right while I was in the sixth grade. Her mother was ill, and she kind of took some time off to give her the hospice treatment. And then after that, she married her longtime boyfriend, Al Warren, who was a fine carpenter.
And was she able to teach after that?
Yes, she came back, but we had a substitute teacher. May have had Cora Maffei. We had Cora Maffei in the fifth grade for about 3 months, and we loved her. When Edna Cooper was taking care of her dying father, and Edna was an unmarried gal. In fact, I was told later in life that Edna Cooper and my father were designated by elders at the time to get married, but it never worked for either one of them.
So Virginia Matsuyama told me that there used to be a picture of Miss Cooper hanging in the women's club.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, and I was there.
I would imagine she was a member.
I was there when you were giving the introduction to Mrs. Mrs. Something's garage, about the JFK assassination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I asked, and no one knew about that picture then.
I don't remember ever seeing it, and my mother was a stalwart member of the Women's Club, and we used to do the Christmas play every year when we were little. Mary McGrath, Dr. McGrath's first wife, she was in charge of the children's playthings. And Mary had a good voice. She sang in the Congregational Church Choir as well. And she did the Christmas play. And so I remember being in the Women's Club from the time I was about 7 every Christmas. And then the damn piano recitals from the 4th grade through high school.
Did you play the piano?
Yes.
Oh.
I had 9 years of piano lessons from the 4th grade through high school, as did my sister, but she was better than I was. And I was sort of out the door as soon as I could, but my mother, who was a good piano player, made me practice the piano a half an hour before I would dare go to school. And then as soon as I came home, I had to practice another half an hour.
So to get there by 8 o'clock, you were practicing that piano at 7 something.
7 to 7:30.
Oh.
Well, then my sister got from 7:30 to 8. In the later years when I was playing baseball. Earlier years, until I started to play baseball, which was about the 4th or 5th grade, then I insisted upon getting there and out the door by 8 o'clock so I could practice baseball till 9.
Well, that's a nice way to learn discipline.
Yes, it was.
Not
and I had to come back and sit on the damn piano bench and shed crocodile tears as I practiced the piano before I could have anything to eat. My mother was a kind of a benevolent despot.
So, did you have a favorite teacher in grade school?
Yes.
Who was?
Edna Cooper.
That's what I've been hearing from a lot of grammar school students.
She was, the others were all fine. And Edna Cooper, though, was number one. And then if you had a number two, during my years there was Alice Young in the first grade. And the others were all okay. I didn't dislike any of them. But Zolita was sort of a professional. She wasn't warm to the kids. Miss Murphy was very schoolmarmish. She'd tap us on the shoulder like this and say, come now, come. Straighten us up. Alice Noble was a kind of a cold fish, but pleasant. She didn't... the only warm expressions that she ever had were towards Charlie Bacigalupi, and she kept him there for 2 years. We thought that Miss Noble's Charlie just doesn't want you to leave.
Now, when he was an adult, was he a fireman, or what was his
He was a highway patrolman.
Highway patrolman, right.
And he retired from the highway patrol, and he was stationed over in Napa.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and he married June, whom I knew before he did. She was a nice Irish girl from San Francisco. Her folks had a summer place in Boy Springs. And she would come up during the summer, and Charlie met her then.
So when you were in high school, let's talk about 8th grade. When you graduated from 8th grade, there was obviously a ceremony.
Yes.
And so you were in the auditorium for that?
Yep. 1936.
And do you remember using the auditorium for things that happened during the school year?
Yes, a few things. We didn't have too many programs, but Jesse Prestwood did have 2 or 3 programs of various kinds during the year, and we had an orchestra. We had an orchestra composed of students from the 7th and 8th grade, and our first orchestra teacher was Miss Joan Hemingway, who became Joan McGrath.
Oh.
So she was my first orchestra teacher, and I played the piano in the orchestra.
Now, did you have dances, anything like that?
Yes. The 7th and 8th grade students had 2 dances a year. We had one in the fall, around Thanksgiving, and we had one around Valentine's Day, which were the biggest events in our lives. We would talk about them for days afterwards.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And we played in the orchestra, and we'd have several programs a year. And Joan came. She was Miss Joan Hemingway from Mill Valley at the time. And so she led the orchestra, and we thought she was a wonderful, classy gal. She was 28 at the time when she came, I remember. And then near the end of the year, she became Joan Wilson and had a baby. And Valerie. And then when she came back, she was apparently divorced, but she didn't live in Sonoma at the time. But we always were kind of fascinated by Joan, and we thought that was very odd.
Well, and that was a big thing to commute.
Yeah, and then the next year when we graduated, after we graduated, that's when she met Doc McGrath, because I lived across the street there. Yeah.
Then she didn't commute anymore.
No, she moved in with Doc McGrath. That was when I was a freshman in high school. Well,
Yeah. And when you had your 8th grade graduation, everyone dressed up and you wore
yes.
suits and long dresses
yes.
and
Oh, yes, it was a formal occasion. Yeah, we all had little suits and sort of like your first communion.
yeah.
But and we had a little band, commercial band, maybe 4 or 5 pieces. It was live music that we had, and Prestwood sponsored it basically. And those were the 2 biggest social events, the 2 dances, and then we had the graduation every year. And then there was a couple of other programs that I recall going to in the evening with my folks, where Jesse Prestwood would regale the parents for not having enough children.
Really?
This was Depression time.
Oh.
And my mother would say, you know, it's embarrassing to go up there and listen to Mr. Prestwood tell us to have more children. We can hardly afford what we've got, you know.
I guess he wanted more students.
Yeah. Well, you know, this was the depths of the Depression. Because I entered school in September of 1928, just in time for the crash.
And how do you
Right.
remember that affecting? Did you realize something was going on when you were that young? Was there any change in your?
Yes and no. The yes part was that my father mortgaged his house to buy Transamerica stock on the recommendation of his fine friend Frank Burris. And he bought a couple $1,000s worth and mortgaged the place to do it. Because his father had given him a house and lot for a wedding present. And I remember one day I was home when the crash came. What was it? Blue Monday on the 29th of 1929. And he had just bought the Transamerica, and my mother had a pencil and a tablet out to see how much money she was making when the stock market quotations came on at the 1 o'clock news. And for some reason I was home that Monday. And my mother's face dropped, bang, because Transamerica had dropped 10 points and went from about 205 or something to 190. I remember it went to 195. I don't know how far it was. And they bought it at about 210 or 220. And I remember her running back to the kitchen to the telephone to call my father to give him the news. She was really upset. That's all I remember about the beginning of the Depression and the stock market crash. And I just know that we were, as a family, more prosperous before it happened and far less prosperous after it happened. And I knew that he had agreed to build a new house. And I remember they were very concerned about whether they should do it, and they finally did it and built the house across from Bates and Evans, which was 2 doors down. And he went in and built it and almost lost it. But it was saved by my mother's Christmas club contribution.
Mm.
Yeah, she had a $100 Christmas club. And she was able to use that eventually to enable my father to get a Calvet loan. which they did, and saved it from foreclosure.
Oh. Well, I'm going to digress a little bit and just go back in history when your grandfather was mayor of Sonoma.
Yes.
And many years ago, I worked at the county and I was filming all the circuit court records. And I came across the lawsuit when the merchants sued the builder and the city of Sonoma, including your grandfather, because they didn't want City Hall they didn't want to be on the backside of City Hall. And so this lawsuit was filed. And I came to you because I had microfished it. And Eugene Williams, the county clerk, was going to take all of those things, which he did, to the county dumps and burn them. And I felt it should be saved. And I came to you and said, would you please go up there and see if he'll give it to you, because it was your grandfather.
I have one exhibit from that lawsuit.
To you.
That Mabel Tonkin, who was clerk in the Muni Court up there at the time, sent to me. She said this was an exhibit in your grandfather's case against John McQuitty.
Oh, he was the builder.
Yeah, he was a builder.
And then I've had a man go up
and I have it framed and it's at home. I had a
man go up and research it. For the
really?
Yes, and he couldn't find anything on it. He got me Jack London's will and testament and a lawsuit that I knew that had been filed against Jack London, but he couldn't find anything about it.
I had a deposition of Jack London in that lawsuit.
The one against
the boundary line lawsuit?
No, this one was a company in San Francisco who asked him to be on the board of directors, and then they immediately started dunning him for money.
No, I didn't know about that.
And then finally, after he died, a year after he died, they settled the law. They dropped the lawsuit and wrote a letter to Charmian about it. But this thing about City Hall, and of course they settled it by building all four sides the same. But if you happen to have if there's any numbers on there or any dates on there, I'll have my researcher go back up there and see if we can find it, because I know a complaint was filed.
I had it framed and I have it hanging on a wall in my study. I'll bring it down.
Okay.
And it might have a stamp number
something,
on it, the
even
number of the lawsuit.
Because now a person cannot go in and research the records in the county. You have to make an appointment, tell them what you want, and
isn't it awful?
It's terrible. Okay, so back to school.
Yeah.
So summer vacation after 8th grade, did you had 3 months off? I assume you were out in June.
We were always off from mid-June, maybe the 11th, 12th of June, at the end of the second school week in June, until around the Monday after Labor Day, because we also had Admission Day on September 9th, which was always a holiday at that time. And believe it or not, at that time, there was a parade in San Francisco that my father and mother would attend, as well as the Labor Day parade. 2 big days in San Francisco. On the ferry. And then we couldn't go back to school till the prunes were picked.
Ah.
Because we all picked prunes and pears and apples and in the later grades.
And where did you pick? Out at Batto's?
I never did pick for Battle. I picked for Cy Palmer, for Bocce Bianchini out here. Almost did that. That was the best orchard. Where the shopping center, Maxwell Shopping Center, they had terrible picked prunes there. Picked prunes and pears for Cy Palmer. Picked apples for the Andrew brothers. And Joe Fernandez, who's the Andrew brother, bought his crop, and they sent me out there to. In fact, when I was 13 and graduated from grammar school, I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning and ride my bicycle down across Cooper's Bridge and turn left and go down into the Fernandez orchard. And Joe Andrews would have the boxes out there for me, and I would pick 50 boxes of apples at 4 cents a box. And
That's a lot of
I would work
boxes.
from 6 until noon and pick my 50 boxes, and Joe would come with his pickup and pick them up, and I would go home and have the afternoon off and read such racy novels as Gone with the Wind.
That's great. So when you were in grade school, who were there? Did you have a group of friends, a group that you hung out with all the time?
Yes, fairly well. My two best friends were Alan McGrath across the street, who's now a retiring cardiologist in Los Gatos and a very good doctor, and Robert Grinstead. Those are my two closest friends. And I used to take my piano lessons over at Robert Grinstead's grandmother's place, Mrs. Poppy, just right down from the grammar school. And then at the Grinstead house, and then at my house. And we all took lessons in from Lillian Winship from Napa. And Miss Gracel was the other teacher. All of us that took piano lessons took one from one of the other. And then Dolly Scarafoni, she was in my class, and she was my sister's best friend. My sister's 1 year younger than me. And
Now, when you say Dolly, is that Rose and
Rose's sister,
and,
Sylvia, she was the younger sister. There was Sylvia, Rose, and Dolly, 3 girls on the Scarafoni Ranch. And Eloise, my sister, and Dolly were best friends. And Dolly used to, stay with us in town. And Rose was older. She's 2 years older than me. And
I'll tell her that tonight.
regularly.
I'll tell her tonight when I see her at the alumni meeting.
Well, you tell her. Well, her birthday's early in March, right? Or February.
I can't remember.
So she always tells me she's very proud to tell you how old she is. So she will be 94, or is already, maybe the 5th of March or something, because I'm in July. So she is 2 years plus older than me. And Dolly and I were the same.
And did Dolly pass in childhood or?
8th grade.
Oh my. Oh, that
She
was.
got, and Rose will tell you exactly what it was, but this was frightening. Dolly was at school, and this was in the 8th grade, on Thursday. On Friday she missed, and we thought she had the flu. On Sunday morning she died. And she had something like encephalitis that killed her, just bang. And I remember Sunday evening, Dr. McGrath coming over, my sister thought, my God, she was coming down with something. And Dr. McGrath said, well, you're about the 6th one that's called me. The whole class seemed to think they got what Dolly got. And they had a barrier within 24 hours. And on Monday morning, we were all standing out on the sidewalk as the hearse went by with Dolly out to the Catholic cemetery. That was the saddest thing in my grammar school. Hit us hard.
Yeah.
There. All right.
That. Now, do you remember any really memorable, wonderful memory that happened in grammar school?
I guess the happiest thing were the school dances. I loved them. and we were just learning how to dance. And we also, in my 8th grade year, we had a ballroom dancing class that my mother played the piano for. And I learned how to dance, and my sister, along with Muriel Robbins, was in that class, and the Grinsteads, and I think Charlie Bazzagalupi, and Alan McGrath, and Celia's sister. And there were a group we held our lessons up above in the old Oddfellows Hall above Gothenburg's Grocery, there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
how
I learned how to dance, and that was, I guess, the most fun. The parties.
How was Mr. Prestwood as an 8th grade teacher? Strict?
Well, I thought he was a good teacher then. Now I think he was an exceptional teacher. I refer back to his wisdom a great deal. He and Lou Golton were 2 outstanding educators. Far different people, but outstanding. Mm-hmm. Especially Lou Golton was a real scholar and educator. Yeah, he was head and shoulders above anybody around here, and was a natural and a very unusual guy. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's wonderful that they've named Golton Hall at the high school.
Oh, yes.
After him. And Prestwood Elementary School.
That's right. They both deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great regard for both of them.
Now, when you went to the high school was built in 1923, I think.
That's right.
And so
22.
So it was fairly new when you went there. It wasn't very old.
That's
so
right.
Was that a big change when you started high school?
Yes.
And did they have, is it like, well, I'll just say when I went to the high school in the 60s that you had a different class every hour and...
Same. Mm-hmm. There were 50-minute classes at 10 minutes in between to go to classes. Same way in college.
And when you were in high school, had you decided what you wanted to do in college?
No.
And when did that come to you?
It was sort of a process of elimination. It wasn't one of those things like Alan McGrath, who wanted to be a doctor from the day he knew what a doctor was. He was a true natural doctor. I wished that I could feel that way, but I couldn't. In the same way Robert Grinstead, he didn't know what he wanted. And we both just, by process of elimination of what our talents were, seemed to kind of drift in that direction.
And
I didn't have any aha moment.
And what was your father's business?
My father, I'm going to give you a book of mine here that has something in it.
Is that your new book?
Yeah.
I've read it.
You have?
Yeah. I own it.
Oh, you do? I'll give you more. I've got quite a few. Anyway, thank you. Anyway, what I said in there is right. My grandfather was really unusually entrepreneurial and effective, and must have been a very bright person, but he died a year before I was born. So when he died unexpectedly from blood poisoning, and in the prime of health, he was 59 at the time, he owned the building that he built on East Napa Street. He owned several rental houses. He owned on the corner of France Street and bought his big home, and he had the 3 houses to the north that he used as rentals. He had a house across from Grinstead's on 2nd Street East, which was a rental. He gave that to Annie Alma for her wedding. And he gave one of them to my father on the 4th, and one next to it to my Auntie Jill. He gave each child a paid-for house and lot as a wedding present. And I think he furnished them, but I'm not sure. I couldn't do that for my children.
No, different times.
Yeah. And so how we did that, I really don't know. So he owned a barber shop, he owned a bar, he owned a pool hall. In his building, he even had a hospital upstairs there for a while. I think he had a 15-bed hospital or something when he built the building. That's what my Auntie Alma tells me. And I never could really make sure whether Aunt Alma was being fanciful or not. And most of what I know about my grandfather comes from Auntie Alma, who was the older sister. And he was the Hartford insurance agent for fire insurance. He had a travel agency. I was shocked to find that out. He had a shoe store, bar, pool hall, barber shop. All in his building there. That's why he built the building. How he kept track of them all, I don't know.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That is a big enterprise to take care of.
Yeah. So when my father came back from World War I, and once you've seen Paris, you'll never change. He didn't want to come home at all. He was talking about going to Australia. My grandmother wanted him to go to law school. He said, oh, the hell with school. And he went to barber college and became a barber. Spent 3 months in San Francisco having a wonderful time. And so my grandfather had the barber shop in the front, and he had his insurance agency in the back. And I think the travel agency too. And so anyway, he had a bar next door, he had a shoe store next door to that, and then he had the pool hall. Now, so when he died rather suddenly, my father was a barber in there. So he had to take over everything because his two sisters were up and out, and both in Marin County. And so he just kind of backed into the businesses and ran them and sold them, and he ended up with the insurance agency and the barber shop and a half interest in the pool hall and owned the building with his two sisters.
It's amazing what life does, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden, there it is.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for this. This wonderful. I'd like to talk to you for hours and hours, but I don't want to wear you out. But I hope we can come back and talk to you again.
Of course.
Thank